heard from the other gentlemen on whether they will be here tonight?
We have not, except for Tom Hoy is not going to make it.
Right, okay. So we're still waiting for Noel and Tommy. There's Noel. All right.
Noel.
4. All right, given that we have 4 of our 5 members, I think we'll call this meeting of the Board of Appeals to order. I will note for the record, we have Noel Halverson, Jim Hutchison, Don Carlson, that's me, and Greg Babcock. Gentlemen, do any of you expect to abstain from voting on any issue tonight?
No.
Was anyone
No.
out to see any of the properties that we have before us tonight?
No.
I went to the property.
Which one, Greg?
Wasn't there only one? I'm
There's
seeing
only
on the
one, so
agenda.
you were there. Okay,
Yep.
good. Okay, did any of you speak to anyone regarding the variance request before us tonight?
No.
No?
No.
All right. Now I'll note for the record that Tommy has joined us, so we have all 5 of our members here. Gentlemen, we need to approve the agenda for tonight. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve it.
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of approving the agenda for this evening? Aye.
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 Next, we have to approve the minutes from the last meeting. If there's not any discussion, motion would be in order.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to approve the minutes from the June 21st meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Looks like we're approved for the minutes. At this point, we should have a motion to open the floor for discussion.
I move to suspend the rules and open the floor.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to open the floor for discussion. One thing, Paul, before we proceed with the regular business, let me just note for the record that Steph did a great job while you were gone.
Thank you.
Good, good. And no doubt.
Let's talk about the regular business tonight. Ms. Markowitz, you're on.
Yes, I am on.
All right, before we get going, I'm going to ask Paul to tee up the issue before us tonight.
Sure. Can everyone see the screen that I have up?
Yep.
Yes.
So the property is located at 618 Gray. It is near the southeast corner of Mather and Gray Street on the west side of Green Bay. It is a commercial building, as well as the commercial building to the north is part of a neighborhood commercial or NC zoning with some single family homes around it. So this is kind of a small commercial corner right here. The request is for a driveway variance, basically the width of a driveway. This is from the application. It shows roughly an existing 25-foot driveway opening onto Gray Street. They'd like to widen that to about 48 feet, which would basically be about the width of the lot itself. Here is a street view. You can kind of see the existing drive. Apron's kind of broken up a little bit, but their plans are to widen that driveway. Current standards for a two-way driveway would be, yes.
Real quick, I'm just seeing the keynote presentation. I'm not seeing I don't know if anybody else is having the same issue, but I'm just seeing not the keynote, but the PowerPoint.
Plan view?
There we are.
There we go.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, sorry about that. Again, this is the subject property's location. Here is a copy of the site plan, I guess, from the application showing the overall width or proposed width and the width of the existing drive. And then here's the street view showing the existing drive here and their plans to, in essence, widen it to the width of the lot. Two-way drives are a maximum of 25 at the property line and 35 at the curb line for single axle type vehicles or domestic vehicles. Semi tractor trailers have a little bit more, but that's not the candidate here. There's very shallow depth here for parking. So again, the idea is to widen this existing driveway cut. There is a proposed reconstruction of Gray Street for this portion of Gray. And I think that's why the applications come in. The applicant would like to get an answer before that construction actually begins next month. So the request again is to expand that existing two-way driveway opening.
Have we heard from traffic or any of the other departments in the city?
No, there's no additional comments for any other departments.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Markowitz, do you want to explain your case for why we should grant this variance?
Okay, can we go back to the picture of the driveway?
Sure.
Okay. So right here, the 25 feet here. So if you take the vehicles, you take the trailer, most of our vehicles are trailers and trucks. This building right here, the purpose of purchasing this building is we have about 185 rental units. So the building right there is used for carpets, refrigerators, any kind of things that we need for these rental units. There's a lot of traffic that we have that come in and out, that we're exchanging trailers throughout the day. So when speaking down to the city and knowing this is a neighborhood zoning, there's no allowance of parking storage. So we try to use it for what that coding is. So not keeping things as storage. Sold this truck right here, sold that cube truck, got that out of storage. How they would like us to park in here, not this way. They'd like us to park opposite, in and out. If the possibility is that three stalls, so parking opposite a direction. So if the possibility of that is to take place and understanding they want us always to pull out frontwards. Right now, that would be totally 100% impossible because the only way of really pulling out of there, the trucks and the trailers measure 45 feet long. This is 48 feet, 25 feet here. You can't even swing or maneuver that with 45 feet of a truck in a trailer coming in and out. Our access and what we use this building for and going into the building is completely shelved. We've really gone through and done renovation in that building. We brought in plumbing, we brought up to electrical code, we put in all the shelving unit. Like I said, we keep our carpets, refrigerators stocked with paint. So Sherwin-Williams comes in there, average every couple weeks. They have access and do it. They stock our paints in there, keep it stocked, keep it full. So we're always passing over trailers, passing over things with the average size pickup trucks. Once in a while, we have a snowplow truck. Once in a while, we have different vehicles. Temporarily, we have had access to another building that's leaving. We're not going to be able to do that. So that now that the construction came, being able to open this up, we can safely bring our vehicles in there, hook up the trucks and trailers that we're going to be passing back and forth throughout the day and pull them out forward safely as the city. And I understand why the city would want that. Backing out trailers are very difficult. You can see the sidewalk goes through there. There's a school across the road. Hanson's is right next door. People are walking during the summer. We safely also want to pull in nose, come out nose. But we need that 48 feet. We really do, so that we have a 45-foot trailer and pickup truck. And if we want to park the long ways as they want us to, that's why we're asking for that variance, to be able to correctly pull in and out the right way, hook and unhook those trailers, load and unload the refrigerators, dryers, whatever, carpets, even the simple supplies that we keep within that building, and be able to do that throughout the day. It just is a great opportunity to be able to ask you to be able to have us be able to have that curb be kept open and be able to do that.
Ms. Markowitz, could you explain how long you've had this building? And,
I
yeah.
believe we purchased that building. I believe, without looking at the closing papers, it's maybe been about 5 years ago. And when we purchased it, it was very dilapidated. So it probably took us maybe about a year and a half to get it back into code and standards, get everything up in order. And then within the next year, to get all of our intentions under place and get it going. The biggest thing was be able to have, our paint supply in and out, and be able to have Sherwin-Williams be able to go in there and keep our supply. And, the next thing was be able to have all of our daily supplies be able to be put in there. Like I state, we have about 185 units, and we have them, some units in Menominee, Michigan, and then some throughout, all of, basically Green Bay, but some in other areas, and be able to have that accessible, that we can just come in and out and have our supplies there, so that safely, we can have our men come in and out and pick those up throughout the day. Then we are able to have our trailers go back home or go back to where they belong at the end of the day, but throughout the day, come in and out and get those supplies as needed.
Okay, so you've owned the property for 5 years. None of the
I would
concrete.
say it's been about 5 years.
Okay, let's stipulate 5 years. So none of the concrete that we see in front of the building, between the building and the street, was put in by you. It was there when you got the property. Is that correct?
I'm having somebody go check the closing papers right now. But no, we have not done any work on any of that, on that building at all. We have not done any of the work on that building. Again, I think the owner did some checking, and he was noting that possible you were going to be doing some curb work on that.
Okay, I have a couple of questions for Paul. Paul, is the use that the applicant is making of this be in compliance with the code?
Yes. The land use, you mean? Yes.
Yes. And I note that there is concrete put in between the sidewalk and the street. Is that compliant with code?
It's not typical. I don't know if it would meet code. I mean, that's part of the terrace area. Typically, the terrace is going to have grass or be vegetated. I'm not sure how that came to be, if that was done illegally or when that was put in, but typically the terrace is going to have a grass area to it. As you can see from the previous slide, it had shown terrace grass areas on either side.
Yeah, okay.
We closed on the property in 2015.
All right, so 6 years. I have no further questions, so I'll turn it over to the other members of the board. Go ahead, Noel.
Just Paul, I forget what the semi-trailer width is for curb cuts.
Yeah, it goes 30 feet at the property line, and then it flares out to 40 at the curb line. In this case, because it's a single axle or domestic type of vehicle, it's 25 and 35. 25 at the property line, 35 at the curb line.
We also did try to purchase Hanson's next door. We had the deal all closed, and the day we were closing on it, they changed their minds. So we have tried to look at different avenues of trying to do this differently, but
Tommy or Greg or Jim, do you have anything on this?
Could the parking that's being requested by the city be kind of shown again? I think it's perpendicular to the way those vehicles are in the picture. Is that right?
I'm not sure what the question is.
Well, I thought that there was a request from the city or someone that to be safer, the parking should be not the way it's shown. It should be different. I guess what is the way they want the parking?
I'm not sure where that originated from. I mean, this is an older building which has had parking kind of grandfathered in, so to speak. I think ideally the parking could change to be parallel with the street, not perpendicular. I think that might create a safer situation potentially. Our concern as staff is those vehicles being able to enter and leave in a forward motion. There's not a lot of room, but one way around that may be to make those stalls parallel, but that's really not part of the discussion. They're not asking for site plan approval at this point. This is more or less a driveway widening to maybe better accommodate access to the site. But the concern from staff's side might be our vehicle's going to be then backing out onto Gray Street, causing some sort of traffic issue.
Right. But I guess in my mind, it's kind of integral. If a vehicle comes in, it has to say use the right side or the existing driveway. They come in and they turn left to go parallel to the street and park. Then they get something put on them. If they're going to leave, they're going to have to leave over the curb. If I'm thinking this through correctly.
I think if you can see this image I have up, the street view image.
Yeah.
This vehicle here is parked perpendicular. If it was to be parallel, it would be this way and this way. I don't know if that only results in maybe 2 parking spots. Again, it's very shallow feet here from the right of way to the building front, but ideally this would be the primary access, being able to enter and leave, but being able to pull in here possibly. I don't know what the original design was, but that seems logical for people to pull in here and then back out and come out forward this way.
Okay.
Widening that drive, I don't know if that makes that situation any better or maybe even worse. I don't know. It depends on how they're going to utilize the widened drive if they get that variance.
Okay, I understand.
Behind that cube truck is a loading area. So that's where a lot of the supplies are able to be accessed also. That door is just a standard door. So behind that cube truck is a wider area to be able to pick up some of those supplies. So it's actually making it easier accessible to us to be able to have that driveway widened, be able to pull in, get some of that out, and then pull directly back out nose first. If you're following me.
I think I am.
Yeah. That terrace area is very difficult being there. And I did ask for someone to check to make sure there was no waterworks or nothing under that terrace area. The message I kind of got back that there was not, because they had talked about like some green space and stuff like that being in the neighborhood zoning. And from my understanding, there is not the question of waterworks being or anything being under there. It is able to be driven over.
Ms. Markowitz, I'm still a little confused. Are you proposing to be able to go nose in when you arrive and nose out when you leave?
That would be, in our world, that would be nice to be able to follow the way you want us to park in with trailers, load them, and then come nose in and then be able to come nose out. But you have 48 feet of a trailer and a truck. Right now, it's very hard to have 2-3 trailers in there, 2-3 trucks loading or unloading or coming in or coming out. It's very difficult. It makes it very hard. We only have 25 feet to be working with, coming in and out, backing in or out. It's very difficult, and we should not be backing vehicles in and out of that driveway. Why we need more space than 25 feet.
Do you believe that if you get the variance that you're seeking, whether it be 40 or 48 or 51, that would solve your driving in and out problems here?
100%, because we have trucks and trailers of different widths, and we're now trying to work it out with 25 feet. And my men don't like what they're trying to do over there. We have dump trailers behind trucks. We have not just that little small white trailer you see, we have all different size trailers that we're coming in and out with, putting things in and out. In their world, they would just love to have more room to work with than that 25 feet.
Greg, you were at the property. did you see anything regarding the physical that we can't see from a picture? I guess I'm wondering about the traffic on the street, or just the general aspect that we can't get from a two-dimensional picture.
Well, right now, the road is completely tore up. So there's not a lot of traffic coming in on that road right now. But the picture itself, looks like the property as it exists, but the road itself is tore up. I mean,
Okay.
So there's not a lot of traffic right now, obviously.
I guess our request comes from, the school across the road. It is a commercial building. I understand it's zoned a neighborhood commercial building because it's a neighborhood and know how you zoned it. But there is a school across the road, and that sidewalk is used a lot. When Hanson's gets up back and running, I guess we're requesting it for a safety reason. We also tried to pick up that was totally dilapidated. I mean, it was just falling apart. We came in and we tried to use it for a commercial reason. We went through and made it all, brought it back up to zoning and code and everything. And we use it for very safe commercial, very small commercial, very, just useful rental items. But we do have to come in and out and get our items in and out of it.
I have a question for Paul.
Go ahead, Tommy.
So just looking at, there's limited information, just kind of one picture and then the applicant's thing. To me, and this is where I'm hoping to get from Paul a bit more education, maybe, just looking at it, it seems like it's not a lot that's happening in the front, regardless of whether it was purchased that way or not, is functioning the way that building is intended. For example, there's concrete going up into that door. Is because of the zoning, are they able to do that? Because that's a standard no for us in terms of parking or driveway that going up into that. So how much of the overlap between a commercial and a residential commercial am I missing? You know what I mean? Because right now I'm looking at it going, none of this is to code.
Well, and I think that would be accurate. Based on when the building was constructed and the parking that was paved, it doesn't meet code at all. There's just no code compliance here, except for maybe the driveway as it exists with the 25 and 30. There are, conformance issues. There's no handicap spot on site that I'm aware of. There isn't a difficulty in being able to enter and leave that property in a forward motion. So it's an odd duck in the sense that it doesn't meet code. And I don't know if this makes the situation better or worse or, more non-conforming, so to speak.
And I guess that's where right now I have a lot of hesitation, because I feel like what we decide, again, tends to go away from the current use of the property and lives with the property, not the individual, for hundreds of years, right? That's the filter we should be applying right now in terms of approving this, is that we're taking something that is already in a lot of ways not set up correctly, and now we're doubling down on that and making it worse. Yes, it makes a lot of sense, but from a property perspective, we're taking the situation and adding to it, and that's a major concern for me. I'm not sure how the rest of the board feels about it, but right now, I can get why they wanted to do it, but again, I feel like our role is to take that part out and look at the property. And it seems to me that
Do you know what it was code before? It was code for a store. So people were driving in and out of it all the time as a comic store or a grocery store. So you had people coming and going all day long, driving improperly out of it.
Yeah, again, the use of it prior means nothing to me. I appreciate the context, but at the end of the day, our job is to think future and use. And just because something was used, something in the past, we shouldn't double down on that. So right now, I'm leaning towards a denial unless I can be convinced that I shouldn't be considering these things from different board members, that this is not something that I should be using as a filter. But it just seems to me we're if we approve this, we're adding more, fuel to a fire. It seems to me that there's a different use for this building that was intended a long time ago, and it's
What would
gotten
that
the horses out of
building-
the horse. Hold on,
I
let me finish, please.
Yeah, I respect
The-
what you're
the horse-
saying about what would that building be used for with that parking lot, then what intent would happen then? If we said, well, then we can't functionally use it and it would be put up for sale, what would you do? What?
Our job is not to necessarily make decisions on how a building should or shouldn't be used. It's to look at the code and the intended reason why the code is there, and then interpret that and say, okay, cool, should we grant a variance based on this current use case, and does that live with the property for a long period of time? And I don't know, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear the other board members' thoughts on that as well. But I don't have any questions. I just wanted to know, right now it doesn't seem to be the property itself, the front part is not in a good spot. So that's my thoughts.
Okay, respect that.
Let me give you my thoughts, Tommy, because I usually go your direction when we vote. My thought process tonight, because of the location of the lot where the building is set, the fact that there's going to be construction right in front of it, the fact that there is concrete in front of it all over, and how they're using it right now, I feel the safety issue of increasing the driveway will do away with anyone parking along where that curb is. That I don't know if it's allowed to park there or not now, but if that curbing's gone, there definitely won't be anyone parking there. And I see the physicalness of the entryway with the front, leaving with the front, allowing the drivers more latitude in getting in and out. So I'm looking specifically for the use being intended, which I know technically to look at the property for a long time. But I think regardless of who gets that property, the wider driveway will probably be safer. That's my thought on it.
Fair point.
Paul, has the city made any communications with the owner of the property, either now or before, regarding its use, regarding all of the concrete, regarding any of that? Or has the city remained silent?
We have not reached out recently, at least as far as I know. Some time back, or a few years back, there was, I think, a conditional use permit for a use. I don't quite recall the circumstance, but I think the tenant or ownership maybe has changed over that time. So, but no, we have not made contact with the owner.
You see, that discussion is what starts to make me lean away from Tommy and towards Jim. We've got a building that's been there and been that way. I've looked at photos. It looks like it's been that way for 50, 60 years with the concrete. And we have the applicant coming in just 5 years ago and believing that the property was functional as in their intention. And nobody made any comments or objections, or they had no reason to believe that the city would have had any objections, and they made the purchase. If we come in now, we're almost saying, if we deny the variance, we're almost saying that we don't believe that this is the proper use, and that it's really not to be used for this type of function. And I don't know if we want to do that.
Well, I
don't
think
know if it's going that far, but yeah, I hear you.
I think in many cases, we require a change of use site plan. I don't think we have one on file for this. Again, maybe property owners or tenants aren't always aware of that. So, yeah, well, I mean, yeah, we don't have a change of use site plan. We haven't reached out to the property owners. It looks like the building is from 1947. So, yeah.
I mean, just one comment, the current owners, the building for the storage of materials related to their business, with trucks coming and going, deliveries and such for over 5 years. So with a 25-foot driveway. So, I mean, it might not be an ideal situation, but we're not going to cripple their ability to do business. I think this is more driven by the improvements to the street and the fact that those curb cuts are going to be maybe redone or reworked. And here's an opportunity to maybe make it work better for them at the same time as the work's going to be done on the street. And, you know, I think if I could just, Paul, ask you once again, when you, and I asked about the semi truck specifically, you gave a separate number or pair of numbers for a 35-foot curb cut. And what was that related to again? Something about the number of axles on the vehicles?
Yeah, so we have two different categories. One is autos and single axle trucks. And that would fall into this category here, which would be 25 feet at the property line and 35 feet at the curb line. The other one is semi-trailers, right? So if you had a large mill or something, they would, we relaxed those requirements maybe a couple years ago to 30 feet at the property line and 40 feet. So we accommodated the more of the heavier industrial type use or semi-trailer use.
So why, so if they had asked to make this a 35-foot curb cut, we wouldn't be having a conversation right now because that's permissible for pickup trucks hauling dump trailers behind them and things like that?
Well, I think if I understand correctly, semi-trailers would not work on this site. So
No, I'm not talking about semi-trailers. I'm talking about the step down from that you alluded to.
Yep. So they have an existing drive, which may or may not be compliant. It's very close, but the widening now from 35 to 48 or some distance like that is now the need for the variance. It's going beyond the curb.
They're currently at 35. They're not at 25.
I don't have an exact dimension, but what was provided on the plan showed about 25 at the property line.
Okay.
Let me just bring that up again. So they were showing, you know, again, the opening at the sidewalk 25, maybe there's a slight flare here to something greater, maybe 30, I'm not quite sure. But the idea is to widen it all the way to maybe the width of the lot, basically.
Yeah, I understand what they're asking. It just doesn't look like, yeah, if you could go to the picture of the front again, Paul, I'd appreciate it. You know, well, it flares all the way to the lot line on the right there for them or on the left, depending on our view here, but there's not much of one on the other side. But so maybe it's not much wider than 25 currently at the curb. But I mean, I would be okay with those dimensions you talked about for single axle trucks pulling. And that's, I'm sure you're talking about the single drive axle or the rear axle there, right? Yeah.
Right.
You know, to a 35-foot curb opening. I don't know that I agree with what's been presented in terms of necessitating that. You're still going to be trying to turn something around, right? If you go in forward, you've got to turn something around if you want to pull out forward. And curb opening doesn't change that fact. You got to do that on the flat surface once you're off the street. So I don't know what they're really gaining if you know, with a significant widening there, other than maybe their approach angle can be a little different, but you still got to have the space to turn around on the slab in front of the building.
Oh yeah, but once they're around, Noel, they have to then that's where the rub comes in.
Yes, that's where the problem is.
But I tend to agree with you, Noel, that the reasonable compromise here, if we're trying to get to one, would be to propose that the variance, propose a variance that would take the curb cut and the width at the property line to something that's consistent with the existing code for different types of vehicles in the industrial sense. I think we could justify that based on a number of things here. I'm also not sure that I want to go all the way to the width of the property or 48 or whatever some of the things have been proposed. But I think even 10, which is what it would be, right, Paul? I get the numbers mixed up, but let's assume that now they're at about 25 feet at the curb. Or 30. Is the current one 25 at the lot line and 30 at the curb?
Well, I'm only going off of what was provided. We haven't, I can't verify the widths.
I understand.
So, yeah, like Noel mentioned, 25 could be accurate. It's probably not much more than 25 when you get to the curb line. But a 25-foot curb opening and a 35 at the curb line would be permitted. You could come in tomorrow and basically get a permit for that. Anything above that is going to require, again, a variance.
So let's say it's 25 and something more than that, whatever this would look like. What again, is the accepted ordinance for larger trucks?
Well, in this case, for single axle, it would be 25 at basically the inside of the sidewalk, and then would flare out to 35 at line. Otherwise, if it was for semi-trailers, it would be 30 at the property line, out to 40 at the curb line.
30 and 40, okay. I guess I'm amenable to 30 and 40, if that's where Noel was taking us. Well, what's your thoughts, gentlemen?
I'm generally okay with it. My thought was more in line with what Jim and with the safety. And I think it's actually more safe to grant the variance for this type of situation than having a situation where they're backing out and into the road. And if you look at Hanson's lot is, it's a pretty mixed area in terms of concrete and so forth, and how that area is used, whether it's commercial or residential, and the amount of concrete on the property. So I'm more in line to say let's grant the variance, but also amenable to the compromise too that fits the situation.
Noel, was that where you were heading, or were you more heading towards compliance with the code? Like, because you had said, well, if it was this, then they wouldn't even need a variance. So were you heading more toward, because there hasn't been presented a case of a semi-trailer use, it was more single axle, right? I think is what we were being proposed as far as a use case. So where were you headed, Noel?
I was just trying to gather information to understand, the ordinances as they relate to this. I'm waiting for Greg or somebody else to take the lead.
Well,
Makes sense to me.
All right, Jim.
well, okay. I want to make the motion to accept the variance request as is, but I don't want to make it if it's going to be me and Greg. I guess I would make a motion to do, let's say, the large truck opening for this property simply because of safety issues. And I would grant the variance with a 35-foot spread at the property line and 40-foot at the street. So that is my motion.
I'll second it.
Do we know what we're voting on, gentlemen? Hearing no further discussion, we can proceed with a vote. All in favor with the motion that has been presented to us, say aye.
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 And opposed?
Nay.
I see a vote of 4-1. Ms. Markowitz, you have your variance.
Thank you much. What do I do at this point? Nothing?
Just to clarify, she didn't have the very modified version, correct?
Correct,
Don?
correct.
Yeah.
There's
Okay.
it's not, the variance actually that the applicant was made, was a little
For the
bit
full
vague.
48 feet, but I did get I got the 35 at the line 40. So then what is my obligation right now? Nothing. It's fine. You just go ahead and do it. Do I need to
No,
sign anything or is everything good?
No, I think you'll have to come get a permit for that. So I would recommend you stop in our office or contact our building inspectors about filing a basic site plan so we can have
Okay.
record of it, and then we can forward that to Public Works so they can include that in their plans.
So then I come down to the city hall and do that.
Yeah.
All right, I will come do that.
Good, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you very much. Thank you for giving me your time.
Mhm.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.
I'll make a motion to close the floor for discussion.
All right.
Second it.
All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're at the informational part. Is there anything you want to bring up, Paul?
No, no further updates. No, that was just an open-ended item in case you had some questions or some discussion we wanted to have about procedure.
I do have a suggestion. We have rules and procedures that refer to an election of officers every year.
Excuse me, can I leave your meeting?
You may.
Oh, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We haven't had an election for a while. I think we should probably put that on the agenda for the next meeting.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today before the meeting. So yes, I'll go back and research. Usually it's every year we do that. I'll go back and see the last one, and then we'll get an item on the next agenda.
And I think it would help too if maybe for all of us, but particularly for me, if we could, if in part of your research would also show us how long each of us have in terms of term. I realize we're a little bit flexible on a lot of things regarding term, but I think it would be helpful to know what we think or what the city thinks we have signed up for.
No, we can do that as well. I'll get that information and have it for the next meeting.
All right,
Thanks,
good.
Paul. I have a quick follow-up on something. So a while ago, probably 3 or 4 months ago, there was a difficult item that we all went through, and there was some legality stuff going on. But I think part of what came from some of that was maybe an education opportunity with some city council members, you know, some goodwill towards the public to basically get people to understand a bit of what we do and why we do it. And I'm referring back to, Habitat for Humanity? And we had talked about having some conversations with the mayor or some different aldermen. Are we still wanting to do something like that? And if so, how, when, where, how, some details?
Tommy, I don't remember this topic of what you're referring to. Can you explain?
So the Habitat for Humanity thing created a lot of noise in the neighborhood and the city. And there was a lot of aldermen involved, taking a lot of conversation from people. And what happened was there was a lot of noise about the Board of Appeals and what our role is and what it was. And a lot of the aldermen and the mayor were, seeking some clarity, seeking some understanding, maybe lacking a fundamental understanding of what the Board of Appeals does. So there was this idea floated of having maybe a small either visit to city council by like 1 or 2 of us or Don and presenting, hey, the Board of Appeals, this is what we do, or having something a bit longer where they go through a training with us, but trying to get the aldermen and city to understand what we do and doing that somewhat publicly so that people understand why or how we do what we do. I don't know if anybody remembers that, but we talked a little bit about it.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if we got to the point of having that as being a proposal by the board. I know it's worth it's worth thinking about. I'm not prepared to have us lay out an educational curriculum for the mayor and his colleagues.
Yeah, I think one of the things that was suggested was like maybe bringing someone, Paul, remember there's that young lady that did the training for us at the Hotel Northland, and having maybe someone come down and facilitate a smaller version of that to city council, or at least mayor, or maybe a couple aldermen, especially those that participate a lot, that sometimes come in, a bit misguided in terms of what they're advocating for?
Sure. I guess I haven't heard that feedback from any aldermen. I guess I'm not exclusive by any means, but I haven't heard that. But, a lot of times staff is kind of a go-between as well between different boards and committees in the council. The board is just kind of a different animal. You guys just are, you're like a court almost. So I think it's important to educate them. We certainly can invite them to, future trainings that might occur, but, I haven't heard any pushback or, feedback from them at this point. Not to say that education isn't necessarily wanted, but I haven't heard that necessarily.
Okay. All right.
Tommy, this has been a problem ever since I've been on the board. There are always a few councilmen. There even has been a mayor that has pushed back on the decisions that we've made. And I think they understand what we, if they don't, I don't know if a great deal of training would help the situation.
Right.
But what we've seen with the Habitat for Humanity isn't something new. We actually got a little pushback on the one at 901 downtown on Main Street, I felt. So I think that they just have to understand that we're not a council. We're not another committee that they can talk to.
Okay.
But in that light, Tommy brings up, where do we stand on both the Habitat and the general lawsuit?
I wish I had a good answer. I don't really have any clarity on either one. I don't know if much has really happened on Deckner Avenue. I'm not sure what path that has taken. The other one, our responsibility as staff was to provide the court the proceedings and all relevant documentation that we received regarding that. And we've done that through our law department. So there may be a future court date scheduled, but I'm not anticipating that we have to testify or I have to testify in that. I think that's a matter between the complainant and the procedures were followed or not. But beyond that, I don't have any more details.
All right.
So the one Habitat one did not file appeal, or did?
I don't know for sure. I haven't heard any feedback on that. I don't believe they've started on the other home yet. So it's obviously rather a mess. So I don't know what sort of legal action they're going to take, if any, at this point. Certainly if I get word of some information, just a tidbit, I will pass it along to the board, your involvement. But to date, I haven't heard anything.
There's been no activity over at the site. The grass, which had been untended for some time, just got cut this last weekend, and the opening for the front door, I'm assuming the back door as well, has been boarded over.
I'll assume that no news is good news on both of those fronts.
Again, the word I kind of got from our law department is that, the board wouldn't necessarily be involved, again, in any sort of decision the court makes. I think it's more or less record keeping in files that we have. So I don't anticipate that we're going to be brought into any sort of process. But again, if I hear any word, I will pass it along, positive or negative.
Okay, I appreciate that.
One more question. I'm sure we all want to get out of here, but there was rumor. I had met a couple of people that the board was expanding in terms of membership. Is that still in play? Someone had mentioned, "Oh, I'm joining you on the board," and I was like, "Oh, cool." But is that something that's still happening, Paul? Or
well, I haven't heard that, but there is one alternate opening, right? So Tom Hoy is one, and there's a room for another one for a total of 7. So there's 5 boards and 2 alternates. But I haven't heard anything regarding filling that alternate position at this point. But maybe that's where it kind of came from.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah, just in that sense that we're in kind of an odd situation now. There used to be the need to have 2 alternates. because it took 4 votes to pass any variance. We're at a majority rules now, so we can actually get a quorum with 3 people. So the people, the alternates aren't as important, but certainly we welcome to have all the voices we can have.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm glad we have at least one alternate. I mean,
Yeah.
Tom's a good alternate, and just in
He
case
is.
someone can't make
He's
it
a
to the
great
meeting, I think that's helpful.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, I
Right.
guess I think we're ready to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, I'll second.
All in favor to adjourn? Aye,
Aye.
we are done. Thanks, gentlemen.
See you later.